This is the real story of a diver who never came back up. In April 2000, 22-year-old Yuri Lipski entered the Blue Hole in Dahab, Egypt, one of the most dangerous dive sites on Earth. He had no guide, no backup, just a helmet-mounted camera and a regular scuba tank. What happened over the next 20 minutes was recorded in chilling detail. In this video, we're breaking down Yuri's final dive minute by minute, using real analysis, expert reviews, and the original footage as reference. We've cut the fluff, ignored the myths, and focused on the facts, so you understand exactly what went wrong and why it matters. This isn't just a dive story, it's a warning. Watch till the end, you'll never forget it. The dive begins. First 2 minutes. It was a calm day in Dahab, Egypt. The water was clear, the sky was quiet, but what was about to happen would become one of the most infamous diving deaths ever recorded on camera. Yuri Lipski, a 22-year-old diver from Russia, stood at the edge of the Blue Hole, a deep sinkhole in the Red Sea known to divers all over the world. It's beautiful, but deadly. Some call it the diver's cemetery. At least 200 people have died there. Yuri was alone. He wasn't with an instructor. He didn't have a buddy. He had no safety diver waiting on standby. What he did have was a helmet-mounted camera, recording everything. He wasn't just diving for fun. He wanted to document something, maybe prove something. He had told people he was going to attempt a deep dive, but no one expected what was coming next. Yuri stepped into the water. At first, everything looked fine, peaceful. The sun lit up the shallow reef. His breathing was calm. The water around him was perfectly still. But in less than a minute, something was off. He wasn't stopping. He wasn't checking his depth gauge. He wasn't leveling out. He was descending fast, too fast. In diving, speed matters. Descend too quickly and you lose control. The pressure builds. Your body needs time to adjust. But Yuri didn't slow down. The footage shows him falling almost straight down. It's not a controlled descent. It's more like a free fall. You can see bubbles rushing past the camera. His hands don't move. He's not kicking, just dropping. He passes 30 meters. Still dropping, he passes 40. Still dropping. There's a huge underwater archway at 56 meters, a tunnel that leads from the Blue Hole into the open sea. It's beautiful but risky. Even experienced technical divers are careful around it. Yuri? He didn't even look at it. He shot past it like it wasn't there. Most divers avoid going deeper than 40 meters without special training and gas mixtures. Yuri was using basic scuba gear, a regular air tank, the kind you'd use in a shallow dive. That gear wasn't meant for deep diving, not at all. Still, he kept going. At this point, just 2 minutes into the dive, Yuri had already passed the safe limit. His descent wasn't just dangerous, it was reckless. But there were no signs of panic yet. His breathing stayed calm. The camera didn't shake. And that's what makes it so chilling. It feels quiet, almost peaceful. But you know it's not. You know what's coming. You're watching a man drop deeper and deeper into the ocean, and you realize he has no idea how far he's going. No team watching him, no second tank, no line to the surface, just a single tank of air and a camera strapped to his head. It's just Yuri and the deep. And as the seconds tick by, the pressure builds, the oxygen thins, and the line between control and catastrophe starts to disappear. Past the limits minute second to fourth. By the 2-minute mark, Yuri Lipski had already passed the depth of recreational safety. He was below 40 meters. No backup gas, no safety diver, no stopping. This is where most divers would turn around. But Yuri didn't. He was still falling. At this point, the effects of deep water pressure on the body start to show, but not on the outside. It happens in the brain first. Divers call it nitrogen narcosis. It's like being drunk underwater. You start to lose awareness. Your thinking slows. You might feel brave or relaxed when you should be cautious. It tricks you. And it's clear from the footage that Yuri was falling into that state. His breathing stayed steady, maybe even too steady. He wasn't showing concern, even though he had passed every recommended limit. There's no sign he checked his depth gauge. No look at the tank pressure. He was descending blind. At around 60 meters, the colors start to fade. Light gets swallowed. Everything goes from bright blue to darker and duller. The sound of his breathing becomes louder, more hollow. His hands, briefly seen in the camera's edge, aren't moving much. He isn't adjusting his buoyancy or trying to level off. He's just letting himself sink. Then he passes 70 meters. This is where most scuba gear starts to break down. The air becomes denser. Breathing gets harder. Each breath pulls in more nitrogen, which only increases the narcosis. It's a dangerous loop. But to Yuri, lost in it, It may have felt fine, comfortable even. That's what makes narcosis so terrifying. You don't feel like you're in danger until your body starts failing. By now, the camera begins to shake slightly. Not violently, just a soft flutter. A signal. His body might be trembling. Maybe he's realizing something isn't right. The world around him is starting to feel wrong, and then he hits 90 meters. At this depth, most divers would be unconscious without specialized gas mixtures, but Yuri was still awake, still moving, barely. The camera captures strange, slow hand motions. He's reaching forward, but it's like his brain and body are no longer in sync. The screen goes darker. It's hard to tell which way is up anymore. That's when something shifts. His breathing changes. It gets louder, shorter. He's no longer calm. It's like his body is starting to panic, but his mind can't keep up. He's reacting slower now, trying to figure out what's happening, but everything is foggy. Disconnected. He has passed 100 meters. At this point, no recreational diver is supposed to be this deep. Yuri was now deep in a part of the blue hole known as the drop-off, a near vertical wall that leads into the open ocean. Once you're this deep, it's like being in outer space. There's nothing around you but water and pressure, and the only way out is up. But for Yuri, going up was no longer a choice. The panic sets. In the next 2 minutes, this is when it all starts to break down. Somewhere just after the 4-minute mark, the calm that Yuri had at the start is gone. His breathing is sharper now. Short bursts of air, quick and shallow. The audio from his camera records it clearly. It's not normal anymore, it's panic breathing. The screen shakes more. His hands start flailing. You can see him reaching out like he's trying to grab onto something. But there's nothing to hold. He's suspended in empty water. Too deep to see the surface, too far to swim back. He's losing control. This isn't just about pressure or gas anymore, it's fear. At this depth, your body is working against you. Every breath takes effort. The regulator becomes harder to suck air from, and your muscles are slower. Yuri tries to swim upward. You can see it. A sudden motion with his arm like he wants to rise, but it's weak, disjointed. He's not making progress. And here's the part that makes your stomach drop. He knows. He knows something is very wrong. You can hear it in the way he exhales. Fast, uneven, like someone trying to calm down but failing. There's a sound, possibly his voice caught on the mic. A muffled yell, or maybe a groan. It's hard to tell, but it's raw. Desperate. Like someone shouting underwater and hoping someone, anyone can hear them, but no one can. He's completely alone. By now, his body is starting to feel the damage. His limbs aren't responding the way they should. His buoyancy is off. He's no longer in a steady position. The camera tilts. His legs float upward as his torso drops lower. He's not diving anymore, he's sinking sideways, awkwardly like a puppet with the strings cut. This is what nitrogen narcosis and panic look like at once. Confusion, fear, and total loss of control. His mask fogs slightly. The camera angle changes erratically. It's clear now, Yuri is in survival mode, but it's too late. His breathing gets louder. Each inhale sounds forced, like he's trying to get more air than the tank can give. The regulator wasn't built to work efficiently at this depth. The air is thick. His lungs are working overtime, but it's not enough. Then the bubbles stop for a few seconds. He might have paused either to rest or because he started losing consciousness for a moment. But then they come back. A huge burst, as if he's trying to breathe everything in at once. It's the kind of gasp you hear when someone realizes this is the end. And sadly, it was just beginning. The deepest point, 6 to 8 minutes in. By the 6-minute mark, Yuri Lipski is no longer diving. He's sinking. The camera tilts downward, and it becomes clear. He's reached the deepest part of his dive, a slope of fine sand and silt that marks the bottom edge of the blue hole, just before it drops off into open ocean. Later analysis would confirm it. He was at around 109 meters. That's almost 3 times deeper than a recreational scuba diver should ever go. With no training in technical diving, no trimix gas, and no backup, Yuri was completely out of his depth. And now, the panic has turned into something else. Resignation. His movements slow down. His hands, once flailing, now hover weakly in front of him. His body seems limp. The camera shows a downward angle. His legs have floated above him. His chest is angled toward the slope. He's resting against the seafloor, sliding slightly in the silt. You can hear his breathing, still there, but shallower now. Softer, almost mechanical. He's no longer fighting. It's likely that at this depth, Yuri was experiencing extreme narcosis. The lack of oxygen, the density of the air, and the sheer pressure on his body and mind had taken their full toll. He might have been confused. He might have thought he was near the surface or imagined people were around him. Divers in this state often hallucinate or think they're ascending when they're not. He doesn't try to swim anymore. There's a long pause where the camera doesn't move at all. Just the sound of his regulator working and the soft crackle of bubbles. Then, he moves again. A hand stretches out, almost lazily. Not reaching, not pushing, just hovering. It's like his body is still trying to function, even though his mind is shutting down. The visibility here is eerie. The water is dim, and there's no sign of the surface above. The slope beneath him looks like it goes on forever. There's no frame of reference, just a man in silence, sinking slowly into the ocean floor. He makes one last effort to adjust, maybe trying to lift himself, maybe just shifting out of discomfort. But it doesn't last. He slumps back down. This is where most analysts agree. This was the moment Yuri knew he wasn't getting out. It wasn't a sudden death, it was drawn out, slow, and quiet. And in a way, that's what makes it harder to watch. He was alive, conscious, aware, but he had passed the point where any decision could save him. He was sitting on the bottom, breathing cold, dense air, and waiting, without even knowing what for. Collapse and silence. 8 to 10 minutes. By the 8th minute, there's no question. Yuri is losing the fight. The bubbles from his regulator are uneven now. They come in bursts, then pause. His body moves in small jerks, nothing controlled. His hands twitch, float, and fall. He's not directing them. It's just muscle memory or instinct. At some point, his regulator starts to fail. This wasn't unexpected. His tank was being pushed far beyond its limits. The deeper you go, the more air you use per breath. A full tank at the surface empties much faster at 100 meters. Now, Yuri's regulator begins to give inconsistent airflow. You can hear the difference. The hissing changes. There are moments when it cuts out entirely. For a second, there's no breathing sound at all. Then a violent exhale, like he's gasping to clear water or force in a breath. He knows he's in trouble. There's a desperate moment where he reaches toward the camera or maybe toward his chest. His hands flail once again. This time not in panic, but in pure survival instinct. This is where some believe he may have tried to inflate his BCD, his buoyancy control device, to rise. But at this depth, inflating it too fast could have launched him upward uncontrollably, leading to a different kind of death. It's unclear if it worked or if there was even air left to do it. Then, silence. The audio stops picking up any signs of movement. No bubbles, no hissing, no breathing. Just faint background noise. The camera keeps recording, but nothing happens. You're staring into a void with a man who is now still, unmoving, and silent. In those final seconds before the 10th minute, it's likely Yuri lost consciousness. The cold, the lack of oxygen, the pressure, all of it collapsing together. He slumped fully into the slope. His body doesn't fall. It drifts down gently, the last of the bubbles rising off his regulator and vanishing into the dark water above. There's no scream, no final words, just stillness. His camera remains on. It would continue to record for several more minutes, capturing nothing but quiet blue water and a diver who never made it back to the surface. The long silence, 10 to 15 minutes in. Yuri Lipski's breathing has stopped. It's now the 10th minute of his dive and the video continues to roll. But the diver himself is no longer moving. There are no more signs of life. No air bubbles, no shifting hands, no sound except for the faint hum of the underwater world. Deep, heavy silence. The camera, still strapped to his helmet, is facing outward at a slight angle. All you can see is the slope of the seafloor, scattered silt, and the endless dark beyond it. For 5 full minutes, the footage doesn't change. But that's what makes it worse. The stillness becomes unbearable. This isn't dramatic. It's quiet. That's the part that sticks with people. There's no sudden drop-off, no explosion, no clear ending. Just still water, a motionless diver, and a camera that keeps running because it doesn't know what death is. You almost forget you're watching someone who was alive 10 minutes ago. Then it hits you. He's still down there. Right now. And the realization comes in waves. The moment when he stopped moving wasn't the dramatic end of a battle. It was the soft collapse of someone who had nothing left, no way up, no one to call, and no second chance. For many viewers, this section of the footage is the hardest to sit through. Not because something is happening, but because nothing is. It forces you to sit with what just happened. You're now seeing the quiet result of every mistake that led to this. No buddy system, no redundant gas, no dive plan, no experience at this depth. And above all, no one coming. As the seconds pass, the camera captures little movements. Not from Yuri, but from the water itself. A slow drift of silt, a tiny particle floating by. It reminds you the world continues, even when a life ends. This part of the footage was never meant to be seen. It's like watching a candle burn after the flame is out. Just faint heat, fading. It lasts 5 long minutes. And then, finally, at minute 15, there's a small shift in the image. A shadow. Someone is coming. The recovery begins, 15 to 20 minutes in. At 15 minutes, the silence is interrupted. Not by Yuri, but by something new in the frame. Another diver. The shadow appears near the top edge of the camera. It's blurry at first, just a movement through the murky water, but it grows clearer. Arms, fins, equipment. A rescue diver, or more accurately, a recovery diver, has reached him. By this point, Yuri is long gone. There's nothing left to save. But someone had to bring him back. The diver approaches slowly. You can see their movements. Cautious, precise. Not rushed. They knew what they were coming down for. The light from their torch sweeps through the frame, cutting across the sand and landing on Yuri's body. What they saw must have been haunting. Yuri is lying still, slightly sideways on the slope. His regulator is out. His limbs are relaxed. His mask is fogged. He looks like he's sleeping in the most unnatural place in the world. The recovery diver doesn't panic. He doesn't try to adjust the camera. He simply hovers. Checking, confirming, witnessing. For a few moments, there's a pause. Just the two of them suspended in the deep. One alive, one not. Then the diver begins to work. He checks Yuri's body, trying to position him carefully. Moving a body underwater is difficult. It has to be done slowly, especially after death. One wrong move and silt could cloud everything. The footage becomes more chaotic here. Bits of motion, flashes of gear, a hand reaching toward the camera, possibly to remove the helmet. Then the video cuts out. That's where it ends. Yuri's body was eventually brought to the surface. His camera, still intact, was reviewed by experts and officials. The footage was never meant to be public, but it leaked online. Now, millions have watched it, and nearly every diver who sees it walks away with the same thought. This didn't have to happen. The final 5 minutes of that dive aren't just footage of a dead diver. They are a mirror. For everyone who thinks they can beat the depth, bend the rules, or go solo without consequence. Because underwater, you don't get second chances. And once you're too deep, no one can reach you in time. When the footage from Yuri Lipski's dive first surfaced, no one knew what to make of it. Some thought it had to be fake. Others couldn't believe what they were watching. A man documenting his own death, all 20 minutes of it, captured by the camera strapped to his helmet. But it was real, every second of it. For experienced divers, it was like watching a nightmare play out in slow motion. Every mistake Yuri made had been taught in dive classes for decades. Don't dive alone. Don't exceed your training. Don't push deep limits with shallow equipment. Yet there it was. A textbook of failure, recorded start to finish. The diving community was shaken. Instructors began using the footage in training courses, not for shock value, but as a serious warning. It showed exactly what narcosis looks like, how calm can turn to panic, how a slow fall can lead to an impossible climb back. Yuri's death became one of the most analyzed accidents in diving history. But what haunted people most was how quiet it was. He didn't scream. He didn't fight in the end. He just kept sinking. Slowly, silently. It forced divers to confront a hard truth. The ocean doesn't kill with noise. It kills with pressure, darkness, and silence. There was anger too. Anger at how easily it could have been prevented. Yuri wasn't an experienced technical diver. He didn't have the gas mixes needed for depth. He didn't bring backup. He dove solo in one of the most dangerous sites on Earth, and no one stopped him. But maybe the diving world wasn't asking the right questions. It wasn't just about gear or training. The real question was, why? Why did a 22-year-old feel the need to record this dive? Was he chasing a record? Trying to prove something? Or did he not fully understand what he was stepping into? No one will ever know what he was thinking when he entered the water that day. But we know how it ended, and we know it's still happening. People still travel to the Blue Hole in Dahab. Some listen to the warnings, others don't. A memorial plaque now sits near the dive site covered in names. Yuri's is there too. His footage isn't just a record, it's a warning. A final message. A lesson in what happens when curiosity becomes risk. And no one stops you from going too far. The final message. Why Yuri's story still matters. More than 2 decades have passed since Yuri Lipski took his last dive, but his story still echoes around the world. Not just in diving circles, but in anyone who's ever chased something too far. His final 20 minutes underwater weren't just the end of one life. They became a message frozen in time for anyone who thinks they're invincible. For anyone who thinks a warning doesn't apply to them. And that message is simple. The ocean doesn't care who you are. Yuri wasn't a bad person. He wasn't reckless in the way thrill seekers often are, but he made a fatal choice. To dive far deeper than his training or equipment allowed. He stepped into one of the most dangerous underwater sites in the world alone, with a basic tank and a camera strapped to his head. Maybe he thought he'd be okay. Maybe he thought he could just turn back. Maybe he didn't know how deep he was going, but it only takes one moment for everything to go wrong. Yuri's camera captured what thousands of diving textbooks try to explain. That underwater time is a trap, and silence is never safety. The ocean is quiet when you're dying. There are no sirens. No flashing warnings. Just pressure. Just stillness. And by the time you realize it's gone too far, it already has. That's what haunts viewers about Yuri's story. Not that he died, but how slowly it happened. How calmly. How predictably. The footage is horrifying, not because it's violent, but because it's inevitable. Every second feels like it could have been prevented. If someone had stopped him, if someone had gone with him, if he had better training, better gear, more time. But no one did. He went alone. He kept falling. And when he realized he couldn't come back up, it was too late. And maybe that's why his story still matters, because we're all capable of convincing ourselves we'll be the exception, that the rules don't apply this time, that we're strong enough, smart enough, lucky enough. But nature doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your confidence or your goals, and it cares about physics, about limits. And the deeper you go in water, in life, in risk, the fewer chances you get to make a mistake. That's why instructors still whisper his name. Why his video still circulates in quiet emails and dive briefings? Not to shame him, but to honor the lesson that came at such a high cost. Yuri's story isn't about fear. It's about respect. Respect for depth, for planning, for the truth that some places you don't go alone, and some lines once crossed won't let you come back. So if there's one thing to take away from that quiet, endless descent, it's this. No moment is worth your life. And sometimes the deepest danger is thinking there's still time left to turn back. Yuri Lipski thought he was filming a dive. What he left behind was a warning, and the world is still listening. If you found this video powerful, informative, or thought-provoking, do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel for more real breakdowns of the world's most gripping survival stories, told with honesty, clarity, and respect. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, and let us know what stories you want us to cover next. Until then, dive safe, stay humble, and remember, no dive is worth your life.